Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks everyone so much for joining me tonight. I know a lot of you are having bad storms out there, and I hope you can stay with us as long as you can. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give the show a like. I'd appreciate it. And so tonight, oh my gosh, tonight I'm doing a different kind of a show tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. Tonight I'm airing a show on unexplained paranormal ghost phenomena. We're going to be talking about ghost bowl lighting, ghost orbs, soul groups, mysterious lights, and ectoplasma. And I have a fabulous guest with me. My guest is Louis Charles. He is a author and a publisher from Ghost and Angel, Angels and Ghosts. So everybody, let's welcome Louis to the show. I don't know why I want to call you Charles.
Because my last name is my first name, and my first name is my last name.
So is your real name Charles?
It is. It's Louis Charles.
Oh, okay, got ya. All right, so anyway, thank you so much for joining the show tonight. And hey, would you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself before we start?
Sure, Norene, and thank you for having me on Paranormal Zone TV. I really appreciate it, and was looking forward to the interview tonight as well.
Thank you.
Well, I've been dealing with spirit phenomena back since probably the 90s, and I had an awakening that happened to me, what I would call an awakening, where I just felt this presence come upon me one day within my own home. And it was a benevolent presence, very tangible, and it just caused me to realize that there's more than what my eyes could see. To make a long story short, with that tangible presence, I felt like there was a voice that accompanied it, and I just began listening to it. I was formerly very religious, and that voice was speaking to me about spirits and spiritual things. Eventually, around 2003, 2004, I felt like the website angelsghost.com, Angels and Ghosts, was something I was to launch with the idea of trying to collect others' experiences from around the world. Stories about angels, ghosts, spirits, photographs, videos, a place to study and explore. And so over the years, I've had a lot of ideas. I've written some books about different topics. And that brings me to today. I'm just an explorer, paranormal, supernatural explorer, just like all of you. So.
Awesome. Thank you. So Louis, can we start with ghost spook lights?
Yeah. Ghost lights, spook lights, will-o-wisps, typically the same, different names for the same phenomena. Let's call them outdoor orbs that are seen outside, balls of light that are visible with the naked eye. Quite interesting. You go back probably thousands of years. I know accounts go back hundreds of years, to say the least. These mysterious lights being seen, usually from a distance, and usually very difficult to track down. Ghost lights, spook lights, they can vary in size and shape and color. What's kind of cool are different places around the country will have almost, or even the world will have legends or lore about these mysterious lights that will appear at night and glow and move about, and there's always been a lot of theories about them. What are they? What's really cool about them, and those who studied them, a lot of ghost lights have a pattern of when they are seen, and that could be a clue as to what they are. Now, when we talk about ghost lights, Norene, these are not orbs that are camera created. I know we want to talk about, what are orbs in a little bit. But these are not camera-created orbs. These are self-light emitting. You could go out there, you could see them with the naked eye. A camera without a flash or external light source could see them. What are they? Some ghost lights or spook lights have been known to be what we would call swamp gas. Simple as that. With some of them, where there's these gas emissions that light and illuminate and can be seen from a distance. But there are others that are believed to be electrical discharges in the atmosphere, and still not understood even today. But there's a third type of ghost light that we definitely know are balls of plasma. Plasma is very interesting. It's actually the fourth state of matter. You know, we hear that word used a lot, and we wonder sometimes if it's actually something that exists, but it does exist. It's the fourth state of matter, not a solid, a liquid, or gas. And plasma can be created by either, I believe, heating a gas or through the creation of a strong electrical field. So when we're talking about ghost lights, to me the most phenomenal type of ghost light is a plasma type of orb. And I think it's important to just remember that. We'll come back to that when we talk about what are orbs as it relates potentially to ghosts or the souls of people. But let me throw this out about ghost lights and plasma. A famous sighting of a perpetual sighting of a ghost light are called the Brown Mountain Lights. And one of the best investigations of these was done by Joshua P. Warren and his team from Lemoore. And they actually were able to reproduce the effect of a ghost light within the lab, within a lab setting. And they found, in the case of the Brown Mountain Lights, that water, after a rainstorm, running over the magnetite and quartz stone in the mountain, would produce this electricity that would have to be discharged, and it would produce these balls of glowing light that would float about the mountain and be seen after these rainstorms. It's kind of cool.
Wow. Could any of this be paranormal?
I think so. It's orbs to me yet are not yet understood. You know, I know we're going to talk about ball lightning.
Yes.
That is still not really understood. And but still, I think the idea, the concept to take out of this is that there's something else out there that is not yet explained by science. But yet, some of it has been explained by science, and it's beyond a solid, a liquid gas. So who's to say that there might not be, in the case of souls of people or other entities, that there might not be, a plasma form or another not yet discovered form that is maybe a fifth state of matter or some other state that's not matter that could be similar to plasma in behavior and producing its own light, etc. I got to share this with you because this is kind of cool. Recently, a lady wrote us. I mean, people write us every day, and wrote us about seeing shadow ghosts. She's been able to see shadow ghosts for years, but now she's also seeing flashes of light with them occasionally. So she'll see the shadow ghost more in the peripheral vision, but then maybe a pop of light will also be seen kind of on the peripheral, and she doesn't see the shadow ghosts any longer. And so it's kind of neat because these flashes or pops of light, not dissimilar to some of these plasma type orbs or ball lightning, I've seen them inside of houses in video. We have a video on our site of one of these flashes inside of a house. And it makes me wonder if it could be a connection with other spirits. We can get into this. Other spirits that are not ghosts, but enlightened spirits or elevated spirits. With the ghost, could these possibly be an elevated spirit, or could they be the ghost transitioning perhaps from this plane to the next plane, maybe what we might call heaven or a higher elevation out of the earth plane?
Wow. Well, I think I saw this on your website, Professor Jack Pettigrew of the University of Queensland in 2003. He said that he proved that some ghost lights are simply a mirage, a trick of light and temperature.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've heard that. I think there's a number of theories, and that's definitely one, I think, valid proof of one type of light phenomena, let's call it. Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah. Great point.
On one of these, on one of the ghost shows, I don't remember which one it was, they were talking about this particular ghost light. It was running along railroad tracks, and you could see it in the far distance, and there was this big light. And the closer that people would get to this light, the farther the light would go. They could not catch up with it. Would that be a mirage type?
I don't know, because, when you think about ball lightning, and we haven't talked about that yet, but we might as well just, if you're all right with segueing into that.
Oh, sure.
Ball lightning is another electrical phenomena that kind of takes place in our atmosphere, but it's often associated with thunder, but yet it's not understood. To this day, it's not understood. These are balls of light. They vary in size. They can be real small, like a pea, or larger or bigger ball that you can see floating around, like you might see, like you might normally conceive mentally an orb would look like in size. But they seem to travel around things as if aware. So it's kind of like what you're talking about with, one of those types of ghost lights that, along the railroad tracks or in a certain area that has movement to it, and it seems like you can never get to it. Well, this ball lightning is kind of like that, but yet it can be right inside a house. It can be outdoors. It can be moving around objects as if to know everything around it, in the environment, as if it has intelligence. But yet they know it's connected perhaps to storms, etc. And it can be explosive. It can all of a sudden explode and bring destruction, blow a building up or whatever. So, again, you have this phenomena that we don't understand of this another type of ball of light that seems to have some type of intelligence, and we can connect that with perhaps the ghost idea again, looking at it from that viewpoint, but also over the years, and you have it now up on the screen, we've had photographs, 3 different photographs that have come in, 2 of them old photographs. These are film photographs. 2 of these 3 were photographed inside of buildings with a form of what I call ghost lightning, for lack of a better word. We don't know what it is, and we don't know if it's spirit manifestation. I know one was from inside of a haunted hotel.
Yeah.
And, we've seen it where it looks just like lightning outside with blue streaks coming down, but it's inside of a home. And we just don't know. We don't know. But, there definitely does seem to be some type of connection with, I want to say, the spirit realm, and with light and darkness and shadow. And it makes us wonder, that connection with some of these ghost lights and ball lightning and orbs, etc., if there is some explanation, these flashes and pops of light that can connect it to paranormal activity.
You know, we took a trip to New Orleans a while back, and I had taken actually you take photographs in New Orleans, you know, and we were in in the haunted area, and we were by one of the haunted hotels. It was where the lady was married to a doctor, and she had slaves, and she was bringing the slaves into like the cellar or her basement or whatever, and she was killing them. Anyway, I took pictures of the hotel, and then in those days it was film, and when it was processed, there were these rods of green light, and they were all over the picture, and I've never seen anything like that before.
That's really interesting.
It's kind of similar of your ball lighting, but they were like a lime green. And then I have actually seen one of these ball lightnings, one of these balls of light, and it was at the Myrtles plantation. When we went in behind the plantation and we looked down the meadow where the slave cabins were, at the very end, oh gosh, it must have been, a good 150 feet, there were bushes, and in those bushes there was a big ball of light that we could see. And this was during the day, Lewis, that we had seen this. And this was a very extremely haunted location. So I'm thinking it does have something to do with ghosts, with spirit.
Yeah, there's a connection there, and I take, although I'm not a religious person, I still like to go back into, older writings and things, and I'll go back into these parables in the Bible, because I do think that there's value in them from looking at them from these ideas that are trying to be conveyed. And if you look at it, there's always talk about understanding, like in the Gospels, understanding the light that is within you, and not allowing it to be darkened or covered over. And it kind of makes you think about the condition of the human spirit. And when I wrote the book Helping Ghosts, this was kind of one idea that I had with earthbound spirits. A lot of times them being seen in shadow form, and we're talking about light now. So even with mist, the range of from light to dark, and these balls of light, and it just makes me wonder. Here were these writings from a couple thousand years ago talking about our connection within us, about light and darkness, and that those two things are within us. And here we are, we're investigating haunting 2,000 years later, and we're capturing photographs and videos and eyewitness accounts, such as some of the things that you cited of light floating around. And I wonder if, the human eye, we're able to see the visible spectrum. And it makes me wonder if we capture glimpses with our eyes, glimpses with our cameras of this unseen ether that, we are within, that spirit realm that we are within, and it's within us. And it manifests perhaps in and out of the visible spectrum. So maybe this is why we're capturing, we're seeing, we're glimpsing pieces and parts of the unseen realm that is right in our midst.
Yeah, it's all a mystery to me, because you have gifts. I'm just an ordinary person, and I've seen things, and I do believe, but you have more of an insight because of your gifts.
I don't know. I'm still just a normal guy trying to understand. You know, it's just when you look back at life, and I challenge the audience to do this. I've gone back and just looked in this life with regard to childhood experiences, things that seemed magical or supernatural, and I've thought through a lot of those, and a lot of time. And I guess what I'm saying is I think in this human experience, we shouldn't be so quick to write these off as something mentally created, or I must have ate too much bad pizza. There have been marked incidents in my life, and I know there are marked incidents in everybody's life, when they've had these experiences that were unexplainable, or maybe different than the norm. And I don't consider myself unique. I just consider myself part of the whole, just like of humanity. And I think we all have these different experiences, and that to me is the power of the website, angelsghost.com, is trying to gather these different experiences, because if it's just my experience, well, it's limited. But here we have all these people out there having experiences and running into odd stuff, and it's like, bring it in, send it over, and let's start comparing notes. What do you think about that?
Do you think that, it seems like more and more people are having experiences. More and more people are seeing spirit. They're seeing things they never saw before. So it seems like it's just it's changing. Our world is changing, Louis, and we're able to tune in more now than we ever could before, I think.
I think so. I think there's, and this is just my view, but I think that there is a collective consciousness, an energy that's behind everything. And I think there's an awakening. I think what I mean by that, I think there's an awakening to that there is more. And for some people, it might be a religion. For other people, it might be a personal experience that would be deemed spiritual. For others, it may be a paranormal encounter that causes us to realize, the world is much bigger than what I see with my physical eyes and what I've been taught, by society. I also want to say, though, that we're in a prevalent, our society is very becoming social media crazed, and now we're sharing stuff like never before, and information is doubling every year. And if you were to go back to, I think I wrote about this recently, England 100 years ago, if you saw, a ghost, the likelihood of you ever conveying that to somebody would be slim to none, and slim left town, because you didn't want to be embarrassed by what people would say about you. And nowadays, I think a lot of people just aren't afraid to share, and they don't care what people think, and they put it out there, which is another kind of cool thing that helps us share with one another these experiences.
Well, and I've been getting messages from viewers, and they tell me, they said, I feel comfortable telling you my ghost story, but I don't let anybody else know, because they'll think I'm crazy. So they have no problem if you are a believer, or if you're in this field, they feel comfortable. But to somebody else, maybe a member of their family who doesn't believe in this stuff, they would never tell them. But they're coming to me and they're telling me their ghost stories. Oh, I have a question from the chat. Oh, okay. Gosh. Oh, where did it go? Oh, let me go up here. Oh gosh, it was from F Warrior. I had read it. He wanted to know. F Warrior wanted to know if anybody has ever gotten killed from these. Could you please ask if there has been any reported deaths or injuries from ball lightning?
I definitely know that there have been injuries, and I want to say that there have been deaths from it. But the last time I studied that was a while ago. I want to say, because it's so rare and far and few between the incidents of it where there is the encounter and then the actual death of it. I want to say this phenomena, in terms of death, goes back to hundreds of years ago. There were reports of this happening. So you'd be looking at probably 1800s, maybe even prior to that. That's about what I know in terms of. I know there's been injuries, and I'm pretty sure there's been a couple deaths reported over the last few centuries.
Do you think it had anything to do with actual lightning?
I mean, that would be my. I wonder if some of this ball lightning is actually just a different form of lightning, different form of electrical discharge that would be not dissimilar to getting zapped, when it explodes, by a transformer. I mean, one of those could blow, and it's pretty nasty. So, you got to wonder, but yeah, we don't know.
Do you think that these lights have any kind of intelligence, Louis? There's certainly ghost lights that seem to have intelligence. I know that I have seen video of orbs and that are, again, emitting their own light. So I guess we should probably talk about orbs, like what are orbs and what aren't orbs. Oh, you want to go into that? You want to go into orbs then, right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, hold on.
Sorry.
No, that's...
It's all so related, and I'm just throwing you off here.
Well, yeah, because the notes here say something about the lights being plasma. So, and that's what you had mentioned earlier. I have to tell you, for years, if anybody mentioned an orb to I've been a paranormal investigator for years, over 30 years, but I don't do that anymore. And if anybody mentioned to us, oh, you should see this orb I got him on my picture, my image that I captured, and we go, oh my God, don't show us any more orb pictures.
Yes. We started posting those years ago on the site when we first started out, because, it was kind of the onslaught of the digital camera, right? The little pop the camera in your pocket, and the lens was real close to the flash, and if you didn't have a real expensive one, you were getting these balls of light in your photos quite often, and so we would post them and just let people look at them, and they're still on the site. If they're buried. I mean, there's 4,000 pages on that site and growing from over the years. But I once had a lady actually write us because those are still on there, and she just was adamant that there is not an orb that is not dust, and I just, the idea of the site is to let people explore. We have articles, we have experiments on there, and we certainly did our share of experiments with photographic orbs, and I can tell your audience that most of the orb photos, like you're referencing, most of them are dust or pollen or lint or some type of fine particulate. It could be a drop of moisture. You could be near a fountain. It could be rain. It could be snow. It could be an insect. It could be a reflective, shiny surface. And the flash will reflect off of something close to the lens that's indiscernible to the eye. And one of the best ways to prove this to yourself is to take your camera and take a piece of toilet paper and crinkle it above the lens and take some photographs with the flash on and just watch the orbs that you're going to create right in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we even got to the point where we were able to start identifying some of them. You look at pollen orbs, and you can see the cross hatches and things. And I don't know. We've posted a lot of them on it. We've seen faces. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've got it. I have a picture. I think this came off of your website. The man, and then there's an orb right next to it, and it looks like him.
Yeah. We've had a bunch of those sent in over the years, and we'll post them because they're interesting. We're not saying it, for sure we know what's going on here with orbs, but we do know that, a lot of orbs in photographs and in video, people don't realize that IR light will illuminate a piece of dust, and you can see the dust travel around as a ball of light. But we've also seen video of orbs when there was no light. I think the one I saw was Gettysburg, and there was no artificial light. There was no light to illuminate it. It was moving on its own over the battlefield. And, so there are orbs that are, I believe, plasma or some other makeup. And there are orbs that you can see with the naked eye, and they can be indoors and outdoors, and they're still unexplained.
Now that's, to me, that. Oh, now I'm showing another picture that I got off of the web. Somebody has a picture of an orb, and there's a face inside the orb.
Yes.
Now, from what I understand, the best kind of orb is the kind that you see with your own eye.
Yeah.
But couldn't that be also
no artificial light?
But Louis, couldn't that also be a ghost light?
It depends. I think it depends on the environment. It depends how close it is. If it's outdoors and and there's let's say a rain shower and it's out in the distance, or it's over a bog, or where swamp gas could be, or there's thunder and light. I think you have to look at the situation. But if you're in a house and you see a ball of light traveling around, chances are it's probably not ball lightning. And you've got to wonder. It's definitely paranormal. Is it supernatural? I don't know. I don't know yet. I think the beliefs with orbs. A lot of people believe they're the soul of perhaps a person. That's kind of a prevalent theory. The essence of one's being, and could they be? And then this is going back to that idea of darkness and light. Mm-hmm. Could an orb be something other than a ghost? Could an orb be a spirit guide? Someone who maybe I should back up and just share what I feel is the difference between a ghost and a spirit.
Okay.
A ghost, to me, is someone who has died and they've remained here, on the earth plane, earthbound spirit, for whatever reason. There's a number of reasons, just as many reasons probably as differences between people, why someone might remain behind. That to me is a ghost. A spirit, on the other hand, has crossed over to the light. They've come from the light, let's put it that way, from a higher plane, and they're visiting. And I wonder if some of these balls of light, if they're spirits. It could be a family member, or a friend, or maybe a higher spirit that's like a spirit guide or something that's here to perhaps convey a message, a messenger, an angel, that type of idea. Someone maybe who's enlightened, not held here on the earth plane. In my book Helping Ghosts, that was to me, the common thread interwoven within most accounts of ghosts. We went out into the field, and we were trying to take the toughest ghost cases we could get, some of the toughest hauntings where people were seeing, the black shadows with horns or red eyes, or, the ghost activity was just very frightening, very active. These were the cases we wanted, and the idea was, could we communicate with these ghosts? Could we make contact and be able to help them cross over to the other side? If we were able to do this, would the haunting stop? That's what we wanted to test. And we also wanted to test what was the reason that they were here. And we felt, in the number of cases we did, that was the answer. That, these ghosts were human spirits, that some here longer than others, some more adept at making their presence known, some here for nefarious reasons, some here for good reasons, grandma just wanting to watch over the family, others here where they wanted to desperately convey a message, or maybe protect and watch over a loved one. But there were a number of reasons, but ultimately, when you got down to the bottom line, even the loving grandfather who was there was some form of fear that kept them here, that they wouldn't move forward. It could be fear of punishment. It could be a subtle doubt or worry about my family. I want to stay here and make sure everything's all right. I want to see what happens. There was some type of concern or some form of fear, whether it be real strong or real slight. And we found that if we were able to make an emotional connection with them and communicate, that their loved ones were there. There were spirits there who were trying to reach them, that we could work together and help them cross over and transition and go through that tunnel of light experience, that cleansing process, that reuniting with loved ones, and the haunting would abate. And there was always this presence. At the end, after this would happen, you could feel a tangible presence within the home that the homeowners would also recognize. A number of us on the team would recognize, and the homeowners, and they would speak up about it. And we, of course, knew it was coming and expected it to, if we were able to help the ghost.
So then when we die, we have still a memory?
A memory?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. I think, and I'll base this off of a couple things. But for me, I had an out-of-body experience that was very awakening, caught me by surprise, floated out of my body. I thought I had died. I was extremely frightened. And instantly, all my greatest fears just came to the forefront. I'm not going to be able to see my kids grow up. I didn't get to tell my wife and my mom and dad and brother goodbye. I don't want to go yet, and all these things. I just figured I had died. I fought to get back into my body, and eventually did. And I just think it was an out-of-body experience. It just freaked me out. I wasn't prepared for it.
So you weren't in the hospital, or you didn't have an accident. You just all of a sudden had an out-of-body experience?
Yes, it was. It was during a period of meditation one evening, and I just had quieted my mind, and was just a practice that I had was just to try to mentally disconnect from the body and not focus on anything and just be still. And I was so still that the best way I could describe it was I felt like a pair of eyeballs in the corner of the room. I was trying to cry out to my wife to get her attention.
So,
I, for some reason, thought, Norene, I thought if she wakes me up, I'll be back in my body. So I'm trying to yell, but I have no voice because I have no mouth.
Oh my God! But okay, what's the name? There is a name for that. I did a show a couple years ago on that, where the you leave your body and you could travel. Did you try to travel at all?
I was just not in a mental frame of mind. That's called astral travel.
Astral travel. Yeah, that's it.
Astral projection.
Yes, yes. Well, that's what you did. That's what you had.
I did, but it taught me something. I mean, it made me realize that what somebody must go through potentially, at least a part of what I experienced, they must go through during the death experience, right? I could see, I could hear, I couldn't speak. I could move about to some degree, even though I wasn't adept at it. But I would imagine, as a ghost, what it must be like to move about with the living, but be silent.
And not be heard.
It's like, I'm here, hello.
Oh, my God. Well, isn't that... So what happened? So what happened? How did you get her attention? And how did you get back in your body?
Well, I didn't get her attention. I think because my focus was on the body, I eventually found myself back in it. And I'm laying in my body for probably another 2, 3, 4 minutes, and I can't move. And my ears were ringing. I mean, if you look this up, you can look this up. This is a typical OBE experience. I didn't know it at the time, but, it was like the spirit had to connect, or, my soul or whatever had to connect with my body before there was like a pause, like the minutes. So it felt like hours, but it was minutes before I could move my body, my ears ringing. And I eventually connected. I sat up. I shook my wife awake. I said, "Why didn't you wake me up? I was calling out to you." And she goes, "What?"
Oh, my God. Have you tried to do that since then?
I haven't. I've thought about doing it. And I have a friend who has done it a number of times. And it's kind of funny because actually I have a couple friends who've done it a number of times. The one guy says he gets out of his body, he gets to the window to go out the window, and he thinks of his body, and he's immediately back in his body. he says like a yo-yo. He gets out for about 10 feet, and he's back in. But I have another friend of mine who was a kid, when he was a kid, he was in the hospital. He was sick, and he was bored laying in the hospital, and I don't know if it was the medication or whatever, or just laying there, he found he could pop out of his body. And so he started journeying at night, and he said he would like float down the hallways of the hospital. And one night he decides to go home. So he travels home, and he walks in his sister's room, and she's sleeping, and she sits up, and she looks at him, and he turns around and goes back to the hospital. Well, the next day, she happened to come visit him, and she said, "Mike, were you in my room last night?"
Oh my!
He was a pair of eyeballs, but she saw him somehow. Pretty cool story, but
wow.
I don't know. Those types of things have intrigued me with regard to what a ghost must feel like. I think a lot of times as paranormal investigators, we're out there looking for the spooky and trying to understand. But I ran into Rob Demarest from Ghost Hunters International.
Yeah.
He's now, I think, haunting Australia.
Yeah.
I ran into him down at Scarefest about 5 years ago, and we were talking about this idea of helping ghosts. And I said to him, I'm going to be honest with you. These ghost hunting shows, people go out there, and if you watch Ghost Hunters, they say, "Hey, can we help you? What do you want? I'm here." And then at the end of the show, they walk away.
Exactly.
Rob goes to me, "This has really bothered me." He asked me for a couple of books, and he said when he was, I'm trying to think where he was at. He was in the Far East filming one of the shows, and I want to say Thailand, or I know I don't have it right. Singapore, or somewhere out there.
Yeah.
There was an area where there were American crewmen that died during World War II, to make a long story short. And he said, they were recording EVPs of "Help Me," and this is when it was cameras were off, and they were still capturing this type of voice, these ghosts saying "Help me," and that's what we were recording here, by the way, with the team I had worked with.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that just bothered me. That I want to understand how to help these spirits. So it's kind of interesting that the new show that he's on, they are trying to do that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've seen him. I was really shocked. I thought, oh my God, that's Rob. Hey, I have a question from the chat, Louis, and I want to see if you can help her. Her name is Linda Argento, and she said, I am ill and getting close to the end, and I am scared and would like to know what is going to happen when I pass. I'm very scared.
Okay. I'm just going to just speak from my heart and just what comes forth. So a couple things. I would say, first of all, that it's easy for me to say this, but this has been an area where I've been trying to challenge myself and understand for the very same reason. I would tell you that, first of all, that loved ones are with you right now. All of us have loved ones in spirit. They could be family, friends, but benevolent, loving people with you now. And they will be there at that time. At that time when each of us, leave this body behind. A lot of times, spirits, those on the other side that are with us, will start appearing to us before it's our time to pass. As it nears, though, I've spoken with ladies that work in hospice and ladies that work in nursing homes, and so many of those patients will see, the dying person will see friends and loved ones in spirit, and they'll be communicating with them. And so what's going to happen is there's typically this transition period, I believe, from every account I've read and everything I believe in me, where these loved ones want to guide you to that light. Now that light is a presence that is very inviting, very warm, like liquid love, peaceful and cleansing. And in that light, it's where loved ones, it's where you want to head, because that is to leave this plane behind and reconcile. It's a time of reconciliation. So you might have heard of past life review, that in the near-death experience, the three things that are most commonly experienced are the reuniting with loved ones in spirit at the time of the passing, the tunnel of light or light experience. It doesn't have to be a tunnel. It's just a strong presence of light as you transition to the next plane. And you may call that heaven. It's just, we try to name stuff when we don't know, how to verbalize what we're experiencing, so we label stuff. But heaven, and then there's a cleansing process, which is the life review. And that life review is said to just take place in a split second, like your whole life, boom, flashes before you. And I really believe it's to allow us to reset, to let go of the junk, of the fear, of the hurts, of the condemnation, of the guilt, of the worry, of all those things, and to become aware of the present moment. Become aware of peace, love, joy, and our connection with everyone. And I think it's a healing. So I would look at this as an opportunity of reunion, of healing, and something to embrace. The unknown is always frightening.
It is. And there's a lot of people that are afraid to die, Louis. A lot of people. And then some don't even believe. They believe that when they die, and that's it.
Yes. Well, the thing that I would say, and this is something, that I try to do, and I'm not going to tell you I'm fantastic at it yet, but if you think about fear is always connected to the past, and it casts a shadow on the future. But it can't exist if you're in the present moment. And what I mean by that, if you pause and try to stop the mind from thinking for a moment. We have the power to do that. Just most of us, we don't realize that. It's the thinking mind that will take the past or take us to the future through a thought train and try to keep us out of the present moment. But if you think about the present moment right now, that fear really can't exist if we're in the present moment, because right now, it's for most people, it's not death, it's not a tragedy, it's not. I'm not saying that we don't encounter those things. I'm just saying it's the mind that will produce the fear. It's the mind that will put us in the past or the future and keep us out of that present moment. And that's where fear is typically found when we allow the mind to take us there. So I would say trying to get to that present moment. If I may, I would recommend listening to someone like an Eckhart Tolle on YouTube. Would be a quick, easy way to listen to him. And you'll find that fear is a suffering. I would suspect that you want to find answers, and I think that some of the answers I gave are at least where I'm at today with the experiences I've had and the study I've had, and on the journey trying to seek similar answers myself, because that had been a big fear of mine. I can tell you that when we worked with helping ghosts transition, that we were recording the voices of spirits talking to the ghosts. And we realized how much love and interaction from the other side. In fact, I've been told, don't call it the other side, because there is no other side. They're here with us now. And, this idea of this wall or this other place, it's actually here now. So they're here now with us, and they're benevolent and loving and helping and guiding. I hope that helps.
Oh, some people said they felt like crying listening to you. Thank you for that. That's really that's good to know, because that helps me as well, and it's helped others in the chat room as well, Louis. Thank you so much. Damn. Well, we need to get back on track here. What happened to our orbs?
I don't know. I think we talked about orbs, and we talked.
Damn, forget it. Let's just talk about everything else. The only thing I wanted to know about an orb, why are there so many different colors of orbs?
I don't even have I don't have an answer on that. I've wondered the same. The only thing I could think of, as far as what I've wondered, when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum of light, in the visible range that we can see, there of course are colors, but you also have outside the visible spectrum, ultraviolet, infrared, etc. So I'm wondering, could it be the frequency of light that they're perceived in, or the frequency of light that that those lights are emitting from, perhaps? But then I also wonder, with us, and with each of us, we've all heard of the term enlightenment and being enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Are there degrees of light? Are there, I'm going to sound a little new agey, are there different frequencies or elevations of being, of awareness within the soul? It seems like when we look at different teachers that, let's say spiritual teachers, whether they be historically or even today, there seems to be different degrees of higher wisdom, and I wonder if just like auras are of different color, could the soul, could the vibration, could the energy that we are within this one energy be on different levels?
Wow. Like that one orb that I was showing that had a face in it. Now, you had said earlier something about an orb could be a spirit, an energy spirit. Do you think maybe that's why a face, it could be that spirit in that ball?
I wonder. I definitely believe from the experiences that I've had that we think of spirits sometimes from a spooky sense, and I've kind of felt like I need to try to with my journey to try to unspooky ghosts and spirits and try to show them from the humanity that they are in my mind. We might not like where certain people are at, or ghosts, or the behavior that we experience, but for me, the evil that I've seen in the world seems to be created by mankind. So when we're talking about ghosts, I would say that most ghosts are not of ill behavior, not ill-mannered. Some can be quite loving spirits, but there are those out there that behave badly, just like there are those here that behave badly. And I think there are those spirits in the light who've transitioned, who come and visit. Those of us on the earth plane, I think they come to learn and watch over us, observe. I think we're all, this consciousness is ever growing and ever learning, and I think to be in body, to be incarnate, is one form of learning. I think, however, though, that spirits can also learn from us while we're in body. I think, just because the body dies, that doesn't mean it's the end of learning or the end of becoming aware. I like saying that because I think we get caught up too much in knowledge, and I like knowledge, and I like researching, and I like writing, but the more I stop my mind from thinking sometimes and just become aware, it seems like at that level there's greater thought, there's greater awareness, greater perception of what's going on, perhaps, around us.
Now, how do spirits appear to you, or do they come to you in your mind? How are you connecting with what do I say? The afterlife? Is that what you want to call it?
Well, I think over the years, I would say with the spirit realm, maybe perhaps is what we'd call it. But I think over the years, the different experiences that I've had some that were more, I've had some that were very tangible experiences. Actually feeling aware of the thoughts coming to me from what I would say would be an elevated or enlightened spirit, someone who was not a ghost. I've seen ghosts, but I can't say that I walk around like the ghost whisperer and I see ghosts and spirits or things. I try to be aware. I think that's the word. One example. And this is going to sound loopy, but let's share it.
Okay.
Because I think all of us have loopy experiences, so we don't want to write them off. But one night I knocked water off the nightstand in the middle of the night, and I trudged out in the hallway, and I grabbed a towel and came back and wiped up the mess and went back out in the hallway. Never turned the light on, by the way. I went back out in the hallway and threw the towel in the hamper. I could see, because I could see enough to, just be able to do that. But when I turned around and came back into the room, I saw a shadow form in front of the window. And so I stopped, and the first thing that rises in the mind is fear. And fear is something you can learn to control. So when I was doing a lot of ghost investigation and stuff, I trained my mind to be able to just control that. I mean, I could go sit in a dark basement for an hour, and if I'd feel the fearful thought, I would just turn it off. And that's what I did here. I just turned the fearful thought off, and I just kind of examined it for a moment. And I observed that there was no light. It wasn't my shadow. There was no light behind me. I was looking at the shape very distinctly and seeing that it looked to be like a male form, not dissimilar to me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to walk towards it and see what happens. And as I walked towards the shadow, it started dropping downward. Now, it happened to be, by the way, in front of my window shades, the blinds we had, and the wall. I could see it drop down with every step. So I'm thinking of two things. Let's be rational here. Is it light behind me, or is it somebody outside my window? Or is it a spirit or ghost or something? What's going on here? As I walked to the window, I immediately looked out the window. I have a fenced-in backyard. There was no one there, and there's no way they would have been there to, and be able to get out. Because as the shape dropped, I was at the window. So then I backed up and tried to recreate it, going back to the same position. I could not get the shadow on the blinds and wall. I even put artificial light on, which had not been on behind me, to try to cast the shadow, see if it could be reproduced. I couldn't reproduce it. But what I felt inside me during that experience, and still feel to this day, and I can't explain it, but I feel like it was me, but in a different plane.
Like a doppelganger?
Maybe. A different dimension, maybe a different plane of existence, maybe a different world. I don't know. But I felt like it was me peering in on me.
My God, I read something about that the other night. What does that mean if you're seeing yourself?
I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around it, to be honest, Norene. I have no idea. But I've found that, like when we were talking a few moments ago about death and the transition, what might that be like?
Mm-hmm.
I just tried to step away for a moment and take a breath and allow to bubble up what was coming to me from inside me. And I think when we have these experiences, and that's what I mean by this awareness, is trying to quiet the mind and the thoughts, but being alert to what you're feeling deeper inside of you. And for me, it's kind of I will get a wave of what I can only define as a presence. It's kind of like a flowing of. I mean, I'm going out there, right? It just comes out of the center of my being, and I just feel like it's like a connection to everything. And I feel like that stream of consciousness is the same stream of consciousness that all of us are a part of, and connected with one another. And within that, there is a knowing, a deeper awareness and knowing and communication. So I would, just suggest to the audience that trying to be aware of that. I was dead to that up until that experience that we opened the show with, and that was when that tangible presence came upon me. I had been very, very, like I said, early on, religious, and it was a building, a book, a message, a program, a class. That to me was my spiritual experience. But when I had that awakening happen, when I had that presence come upon me, I wasn't expecting it. I'd never had anything like that happen to me before. I couldn't explain it. I had just felt like it was love, peace, and it was like God came down and sat on me. And for a year or two, I thought it was God. I found God.
Mm-hmm.
God's real. It finally, as I learned to follow that voice, it was revealed to me that it was people on the other side
that were talking to you. Oh my God!
Yes, but they're talking to all of us. I think that's the key. Is the consciousness and that connection that we have. If we open that up, and it starts with silencing the mind. It might be maybe for 30 seconds, maybe for a minute, but starting to quiet the thoughts of the mind and just being aware. And that puts you into the present moment, and that puts you in a place of being open to what can bubble up, what can come to you in terms of understanding and perception.
Lewis, several times I have heard conversation, and it's nobody that was in the house. I believe it was spirits, ghosts having a conversation, and that's happened several times where I could tune into their conversation, but I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Very interesting. So when we were conducting the experiments in the haunted locations, and we were communicating with the ghosts and trying to work with enlightened spirits that we knew were there. Once we knew they were there, when we knew they were trying to help us, it was amazing. It felt like, and it felt like to us like they're always there to try to help the earthbound spirits. They're always there to try to help the ghosts. These people, these temporarily lost souls, move beyond looking at the past, move beyond their focus on this earthly realm. And a lot of times they're ignored, a lot of times they're feared, or just not listened to because of the the motivation that the ghost has. And once it seems like that a lot of ghosts have that focus on this physical plane and people. A lot of them seem to like to hang around people or a location where people are at, and if they're at a point where they can be communicated with, they will hear the people here on this plane before, a lot of times they will listen to the spirits that are there trying to reach them. It's almost as if they tune them out or turn them off or ignore them or fear them. And it's quite interesting. So, you mentioned about the conversations that you're picking up something. It makes me wonder, at least reminds me of those experiences that we had. And, could you have been perceiving those scenarios that I described?
Maybe, but I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
I've had so many experiences, Louis. That's another story. I could do an hour show on so many experiences. Okay, so let's get back to what Rob Demarest was saying. And I know, and it's happened to me during paranormal investigations off of EVPs. Help me, help us. What do you do? What do you do, Louis? Because you do. You go to a location, you're there for so many hours, and then you leave, and you have this help me recorded. What do you do?
Well, I'll try to give some answers to that tonight. I did write a book on this to try to help investigators, and again, it's helping ghosts. So if you go to angelsghost.com, there's actually a download right on the homepage banner, or you can go to Amazon and pay more money. But if you want a PDF download, audience, I would highly recommend that. It's cheaper and you get it right away. But I kind of, and there's also a free download on my site too, just for those out there who think they might have a haunting but aren't sure. I think you have to confirm the haunting, and let's assume that we've already done all that. We know that there's a ghost there. We know there's a disembodied human spirit there that needs help. Probably the first thing I think I like to share is to acknowledge. So, as I mentioned earlier in my experience with the out-of-body experience, and we also experienced this with the hauntings that we investigated, a lot of times ghosts are desperate to communicate.
Yes.
So you can imagine being silenced off, Norene, and not being able to communicate. And so the attempts at gaining attention, think about it if you're a ghost, how you're like a pair of eyeballs, and you're trying everything. You're going to try to experiment to try to make your presence known. You may try walking through a person. You may try touching a person. You may try communicating some way mentally. You may try to get their attention while they're asleep, or going to sleep or in bed when they're kind of toned down, and to see if you could make your presence known to them. You might at some point become able to perhaps mentally interact with the physical environment to some degree. Maybe it's a movement of an object or some type of what we would call paranormal activity, right? Mm-hmm. So from the human experience, we see that here, and we go, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is scary as hell. On the other side of that, I think what we have in most cases, we have desperate human spirits trying to communicate with the living. That's the flip side of it. So if they're desperate, if they're trying to communicate, if they're frustrated, if you ignore them, it's only going to make them more frustrated. So I would say be open to communication, be open to speaking openly, acknowledging their presence, acknowledging that you know they're there, and acknowledging that I want to try to communicate or help. I think that is probably the initial best advice that I could give, and where it's going to start. Some people can learn to communicate by just being open and aware and just following the impressions they get within them, deep within them, as to what to say. Others will record EVP or will record ghost box recordings and asking questions, etc. I always suggest work the haunting like you would a puzzle. What are all the experiences that people have had? What are all the experiences you have had? What are your impressions? Do you know anybody who's recently passed? Start writing these things down and taking notes, and then maybe work into open communication. Verbally, also the impressions you get with inside, but maybe even electronically, and see what you can record or not record. And then at some point, hopefully, if you can come to some understanding of who's there and why, you've got to get to that why question, and try to understand why and find out that answer. If you can find that answer out, then I think it's walking through the explanation of what happens when we die, and explaining that you are dead. There are some ghosts that just aren't aware yet of what happened. Most are, but some aren't. And it's kind of going through that path. This is where you're at, and this is the experience of the light. There are loving spirits with you. Making an emotional connection to walk them through the fear, and not to be afraid to connect with the loved ones that are right there, and having them, if possible, mentally connect with the person they want to see most, who's passed. And those are just some ideas of how to help them that we would work with and get them to cross. And when it happened, like I said, you'll know it happens. Because when they cross, it's just like a gush of light and love, and it just, you can feel it tangibly, and the haunting will stop if that happens. We used, like I mentioned, electronic. We used our own internal impressions, and we also used a psychic medium on the cases. So if it's something that you can't work through yourself, I would say be patient, and not be afraid to say, hey, please be patient. I'm going to work with you. If you're suffering a haunting. But at the end of the day, if you can't do it yourself, there are good, credible psychic mediums out there that are very good at understanding that ghosts are people and that they need help to cross over.
I have another question about this. And are there things that you can ask of a spirit or a ghost? You can ask them questions, and you'll get responses maybe off of a K2 or some kind of electronic device. And then there comes to certain questions, and they stop communicating with you. And these questions would be, what is it like on the other side? When you start, and we still call it the other side, I think that I'm not sure if we could ever stop saying that, Louis.
I know.
But when you start asking questions of them, what is it like? Can you tell us? And things like that, questions on that, like that, they stop communicating with you. Are there some things that we are just not supposed to know?
I think in those cases, assuming the communication would be with a ghost, an earthbound spirit, I think that their motivation in a lot of cases, is more focused to their current condition and not so much as to describing what they're going through. And what I mean by that is any type of suffering is a state of hell. To me, that's what hell is. It's a state of suffering. I don't view it as a place. I view hell as a state of mind that we can achieve here every day by being trapped in that thinking that, you know, if we don't become aware and we allow our thinking mind to just take off and run us through past, future, and keep us out of this present moment, instead of using the mind to think when it's time to think, you know, but being aware, that is a form of hell in my mind. So taking it to the ghost, the person who's suffering in some type of subtle form of fear, again, or maybe it's just a little doubt, or maybe it's a pronounced fear of going to hell or being punished, or a desperation to get out of this condition that they're in, etc. I think any questioning that would take them off that course of the goal they're trying to accomplish, which is to relieve their suffering, might not be answered. That would be my gut instinct, but that's not probably, it's probably not always the case.
But Lewis, it happens, and it's still happening today. When the ghost box sessions or the ghost box, the hack box, whatever, when you'll have responses which we think seem to be intelligent responses because they seem to be answering what we're asking. And then when you start asking those questions about the other side, again, even with those, it just stops. They'll communicate with you up to a point, and then they just stop. Now, another thing is, I do ghost box sessions with my friends, and we've had I think they were intelligent responses. How do we know that we are actually communicating with a ghost or a spirit? And not, okay, another question related to that. Do you believe in demons? Could these be responses from a demonic entity trying to make believe that they are a ghost or a spirit?
Okay, so a number of questions there. With the ghost box, I'd done a lot of work on this back in 2007. I actually have several of them myself, and I would say that I recorded probably as many enlightened spirits, if not more, than ghosts. So I do think it's very plausible that that depending on the questions, with an enlightened spirit, it may only go so far if it is out of bounds or considered an interference, let's say, of where they feel, you know, their boundaries are in terms of, you know, I want to say if they feel they're interfering, I could see that questioning, you know, those answers may cease. There are also, I do want to say this, though, there are also ghosts that are nefarious, that are what you would consider demonic in behavior, by, you know, just, but they are human spirits, and I could see, you know, where, you know, you could definitely get questions answered, and you definitely could get some odd responses, and you could definitely get some untruths, and you definitely could get an end to the answers as well. That said, do I believe in demons? No, I do not believe in the traditional teaching of demons, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you why. It's first of all, historically, we can go back to the origin of demons in our Western culture, and you can actually go back into the creation of them through religion, and it was done by taking the Greek daemon or daimons, which, if you look at what the ancient Greek beliefs in terms of what those were spirits. They were human spirits. They may be benevolent. They may be not so nice spirits, but they were human spirits. When the Christian religion came in, and they wanted to convert beliefs, and they wanted to get people to not believe in daimons any longer, they attributed those as to being bad spirits, non-human. I mean, you can go back, and I want to say this is right around 600 AD, 600 and 800 AD, when the creation of a physical hell, and then the idea of demons came into Christian theology, and then that has been promulgated since that time, and that now today is the underlying tone in Western culture. But if you were to take a look at different religious beliefs outside of that, and for example, the Hebrew beliefs in exorcism, they actually have a teaching of ghost possession and a rabbinical prayer to remove that possessing ghost. On the website, I have actually a document from, I want to say, 1800s, just a picture on there, but the story of it was a lady's husband who had died. There was an exorcism that needed to be done with the husband, in the way that the Jewish, the rabbis would view this type of person. This husband was harassing the wife after his death, and so it's a very, very beautiful belief in this exorcism or healing, and that is that they want to help the living and they want to help the ghost, and so they want to bring peace to both, and so there's so much. I had studied this so much and dove into this so much. I could probably spend an hour on why I don't subscribe to that, but I do think that there is possession out there, and I do think that is ghost possession, not demon possession. I just think we're calling bad behavior by something frightening because that's what it's been labeled. That's my opinion on it. But there's a really good book on it. I'm trying to think. The Unquiet Dead. And this is a very good book to learn about ghost possession. And you can pick that up on Amazon. I forget the author's name right now. It escapes me. But she was taking people through past life regression and found other spirits living within her patient, a psychologist. And she found that they were actually ghosts, and not unlike the New Testament version of spirits, etc., multiple spirits. She was finding multiple spirits in some of these people. people that she would, when that leader of that possession, that house, the body being the house, was exorcised or gotten out, the rest of the ghosts that were under him, the rest of these souls, were free and left with him. Very much like the biblical stories, some of the biblical stories too. So.
Okay, oh my God. We really got off the track of ghost phenomena. Okay, I only have...
Started it.
But I mean, oh my God, Louis, I mean, I could have done 2 shows with you, honey. We could have done that kind of a show and then the ghost phenomena. What I want to touch before we end the show, I only have another 15 more minutes. Haunted objects. And I did a show 2 weeks ago on haunted dolls. And so this would kind of tie into haunted objects. So would you talk about haunted objects for the viewers?
Yeah, I'll certainly share my thoughts. Haunted objects to me are the big enigma in the paranormal world because I don't think we understand them yet. I'm not convinced that we have an understanding out there. We have theories of what might be happening. A very interesting book and called Haunted Stuff. I was asked about 8 months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, to review this book by the publisher, and the author Stacey Graham. She wrote a book about haunted stuff, and pretty much talked about how these items in her research seem to show up. They come from flea markets or antique shops or garage sales or passed down through families, and innocently enough, they end up in people's houses, and there's crazy, spooky, haunted activity that seems to take place with these. And I said in the review, the only thing I think that's lacking is, I think it's a really good book, but Stacey, I hope you come out with haunted stuff too, because I think it would be worth trying to work more on exploring some of the ideas of why these items behave like they do. Why, is there such a... I find it difficult to think that an item can be possessed, as some, there's a number of prevalent theories, and one is that the item is possessed by a spirit, as if a living spirit of a human from the past exists within this haunted object. But there are other theories, though, such as maybe these objects are somehow carrying the memories of the past owners. In other words, was this object a part of some tragedy, or was there some intense emotional energy attached to this item through accident or on purpose? Or is it possible that maybe some of these, what we perceive to be haunted objects, are just items? I think of with some haunting, doors moving, chairs moving, keys moving, objects moving. That maybe it's an external force outside of that object that's being moved, and maybe that focus object, that trigger object, as we call it in paranormal investigation, is just that. There's some type of reason that it's being moved, but it's actually not possessed by a spirit per se. But let me throw a couple crazy things out here. In Tibet, there is such a thing as what's known as tulpas, Tulpas.
Right.
And it's really just the creation of thought forms into ghosts that are called tulpas. And these tulpas are said to be created, or able to be created, by Tibetan sorcerers or wizards. They create these, and then they have these ghost energy forms that they've mentally created go do their bidding. out there. So, it's an interesting thing. Some people say, well, it's just a theory or, somebody's imagination. And there's others who've witnessed it and say, man, I'll tell you what, I'm a believer. But I think what we could take away from that would be the idea that it could be possible to create and attach some form of energy to an object, to perhaps animate it, such as in the haunted objects or the haunted dolls. You think of voodoo practitioners, and, there's certainly some beliefs there. But the thing that I would throw out is kind of my thinking that if everything that exists as energy, and I mean that's kind of the one scientific theory that we live in a holographic world, that we are just energies within one energy that is in control of everything. So if everything that exists as energy, then could anything ever truly be inanimate?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is possible that everything is energy and everything has its beauty. And not to sound religious here, but I remember Bible passages popped in my head. I think it was Jesus that if I wanted these stones to cry out, they could. So
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder.
Well, I know that people have purchased antiques, and there was a really famous story about somebody that had, and I've seen it on ghost shows too. They purchased a bed, and when they brought that bed into the home, my God, all hell broke loose in the home. And then they decided just to get rid of it, and everything stopped. So I kind of believe that there's an attachment from the previous owner to these objects. Now, some objects may not have that energy attached to them, but then I think if they want to be attached to something, they would attach themselves to something that was personal to them. And this thing with the Dybbuk box, and that goes way back. And the purpose of the Dybbuk box. They would put a bad spirit into the box. They would get that spirit to go into the box, and how they do it, I don't know. But there would be articles, personal things, and a picture of that person that goes into the box. Now, what do you think about that?
I've heard of it. I guess I struggle with the idea of the soul of a person going into a physical object. I just really do. But then again, I'm not going to say I know that I know everything, because I know I don't know but a drop. It just, it's like you go back to the old ideas of the ghost in a jar, and some of these different things, and I wonder. I just think that to me, there's just not enough known yet about this phenomena, such as you speak. For me to weigh in and say, it's this or that, or I think it's this. I just truly think it's still yet a mystery. I think there's something there, but what is it? And how is this happening? I know that, when I just did a lot of writing on just exploring different types of ghost lore within all these different cultures around the world, and there's so much lore and much of it folklore that you've got to half wonder if it's like you got a piece of the truth here, or you have a superstition, or how do you get to the bottom of that? I don't know, but the one thing I do know is that ghosts are definitely prevalent throughout all of our society. Ghosts and spirits. There is a human experience that's happening with the supernatural, with paranormal, and it just can't be denied. I think science likes to deny it because they can't prove it, they can't put a finger on it yet, but it's prevalent throughout our cultures and throughout history. To me, it's there.
It is. It is strange. I mean, yeah, you're right. We really don't know everything yet, and I don't know, Louis. I don't know if we ever will really find out the truth, or I really don't know. I really don't think we're going to be able to find out everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the journey, because I think we are ever learning and growing, and in that I think that we're understanding more about ourselves. I really think that's what it's about, awareness of each other. And when I see you on YouTube right now on my computer, you're a part of me, and I'm a part of you, and we're all a part of each other. And I think it's the awareness of that, and I think it's wonderful.
Louis, I am so thrilled to have had you on the show. I could just let you just talk for hours and hours and hours, but then I can't edit the show if you do that. I'd have to start another one. You were absolutely fabulous. It was just my honor to have you on my show, and I thank you so much for coming on. And I do have your website up for everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure. You're a great host. You let me ramble on and put your listeners to sleep.
Oh, no. They loved you. Are you kidding? They loved it. They loved the show. And it was just awesome. I have to think of another subject to have you come back on. I would love to have you come back. If you would, I would love to have you.
Anytime. Absolutely.
Good night, Louis. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and blessings to you and the audience. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. Hey, don't forget, give my show a like. Louis was absolutely awesome. It was the first time I've met him, and he was just an awesome guest. I am going to bring him back. Give me some suggestions. Check out his website. His website is absolutely phenomenal. He's got so much information on there. It's really an awesome website. Everybody say good night. Have Jess Elias, yes, Diane Hilbert. Okay. What subject would you like me to cover with Louis? LS. Hey, LS. Oh, what is it? Atlantiscotia? Did I say that right? Okay, everybody. Anybody else before I sign off? Thanks, everyone. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday. I will have a show on Thursday. Next Thursday, Philip Sarkosa. It's on the Horsefly Chronicles. It's some kind of a haunting. He wrote a book on it. That should be good. That's Thursday, but next Tuesday, will be a pre-show with Dave before his live investigation. So everybody, I'm going to say goodnight now, okay? So I'll see you all next week, okay? Thanks again for coming in, and thank you so much, everybody. I love you guys. Thanks. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Good night.